listening to the DolphinsTalk.com podcast, the most listened to daily Miami Dolphins podcast on the internet.
Miami's got the Dolphins, the greatest of all.
Come on, Dolphins fans. Time to fins up.
We're in the air, we're on the ground, we're always in control. And when you say Miami, you're talking to the ball. Cause we're the Miami Dolphins, Miami Dolphins, Miami Dolphins number one. Miami Dolphins, Miami Dolphins, Miami Dolphins number one.
Good evening, Miami Dolphins fans. How are you tonight? And thank you for listening to the DolphinsTalk.com podcast, our matchup show. I am your host, Michael Leva, joined as always by Robert Burns. And tonight we have a very special guest, former Miami Dolphins safety, Arturo Freeman. Arturo, how you doing tonight?
Great, man. I'm great to be on this show with you guys, man. This is exciting. This is definitely exciting. Get to see new faces and an old face with Rob Burns here. So I'm excited to talk a little football with you guys and just have some fun.
We're going to reminisce a little bit too. I mean, longtime friend for me, new time friend for the show.
For sure.
And let's reminisce a little bit and find out what the hell you been up to, man? I mean, it's been how many years since fans have kept up with you if they haven't been following you on Twitter, but what's Arturo Freeman doing these days?
Arturo Freeman is giving back to his community. I would say South Florida is my community now, as well as South Carolina. That's my home. Just being able to leave a legacy and a mark on these young men, guys that have opportunity to change their life for the better. I've been involved with high school coaching, running camps from my own camp, which is Elite Prep Sports. Which we'll be actually in a little promo. So, we'll be having a camp January 11th. January 11th. Last time we had one was in 2021-22 after COVID. We had a big camp then. We've been doing this thing. My wife and I have been doing this thing since 2014, giving back to the community, enjoying ourselves, really just seeding back into what made myself, where I am today. So other than that, been coaching, had opportunity to coach in college football the last 2 seasons. That was a great experience. I was at Campbell University outside of Raleigh in North Carolina. Enjoyed that, had opportunity to recruit some South Florida talent, bring some kids that I coached in high school, give them opportunity to play college football. And now I'm still just enjoying myself, being a dad and living a dream, as they say.
Yeah, Elite Sports Prep, or Elite Prep Sports Camp. For you, I watched some of the videos. It's great to see these kids out there. They go to high school, they learn from their coaches, and they go to you guys, and they're honing from the professionals, the guys that have made their name really at this. And for you, especially at South Carolina with the Gamecocks and down here in South Florida with the Dolphins, what's it like for you to see them? These are kids grade 8 to 11, right? So you're seeing these young men come in there and they're growing year after year. How cool is that for you to see them come in 8th grader, wide-eyed, bushy-tailed, 11th grader, and now they're ready to go on out and they're ready to go play for the big boys and the big stadiums out there, the SEC? Well,
it's been crazy because 2014, when we started out, our first camp was at Pembroke Pines Charter.
Mm-hmm.
The likes of Patrick Surtain Jr. was there. Asante Samuel Jr. was at our camp. Wide receiver that played at Ole Miss in the Jets. They got drafted in the 2nd round. I can think of his name. Elijah Moore was at Kenny McIntosh, Zay Flowers. So, I'm excited to kind of, redo our website and post a lot of these young South Florida guys that are currently in the NFL coming to our little camp.
Yeah.
We had opportunity just to show them what the expectations were. We try to jump out early in the year, every year, to kind of more of a teaching, more so, we run an NFL style combine. We call it the CSC platform, which is a camp, a combine, a showcase camp. So we have a little bit of all three inside of one. Kind of guys we want to be the first to do it because the guys are going to the 5-star, the 4-star, the 3-star camps. They're going to the Under Armour camps. They're going to the the t-shirt camps that they know of, but what they're going to get from us is they're going to get NFL pros assisting, teaching, correcting, college players that played, guys that actually played the game, great high school coaches that are involved. We had Larry Bluestein for the last few years come out, Channing Crowder, the year we did it last, himself and Larry Bluestein. We had a live stream. They commentated the whole event. So we try to do something different, every year. Now we're back in it full swing, and actually working with a couple sponsors, trying to make this thing not only be in South Florida, but be able to take this thing on tour.
Yeah, that's awesome. And that is, again, January 11th, Elite Prep Sports Camp for people, for kids 8th through 11th grade in South Florida. Is there a website where people can go and find this information at?
ElitePrepSports.net. Right now, we're basically, we had an EPS program and a different website. So now we're updating a lot of information. So right now, you just follow us on Twitter at Elite Prep Sports for now. So you trust me, you will see it.
We will share it for you and help spread the word and get that out there. I want to ask you some questions about your time in the NFL, because you were in Miami between 2000 and 2004, which is an interesting time in the history of that franchise.
Right.
You're post Marino. He had just retired when you got there. Jimmy Johnson had just left. Yeah. So you played for Coach Wanstead, and you were there in that post Marino, like right when he left kind of era. What was it like your first year in the league? What was your experience with Coach Wanstead? And sort of was the aura of Marino still sort of hovering around the team in that 2000, 2001 timeframe?
Absolutely. Coming to getting drafted to Miami Dolphins, coming from South Carolina, obviously is a little culture shock because things are totally different here. It was a time where we as an organization was not even was clearly Marino locker was still there.
Yeah.
His shoes were still there. His workout clothes were still there. He had, the guys there, they have like 2 or 3 lockers. He had a locker and 2 other cubby spaces that was his. I remember walking through there the first day. I'm like, I don't even think he made a decision yet. So at the end of the day, that year, those 5 years I was there, we were still searching for a quarterback. Mm-hmm. Let's just say that, and I think now they just now have gotten one now, but during that post time, we were searching for a quarterback. And then I think at the end of the day, we had a couple guys that were good football players, but we just didn't have that guy that was that could get us over the hump. And I think that's really what we were missing. We had the greatest football running back that to me that ever played the game, as Ricky Williams. So add that with a great quarterback, and we had opportunities.
You did.
We had opportunities.
You had chances.
We had some chances to get some dudes that won Super Bowls, Drew Brees and Roethlisberger. So that's a whole nother show.
Yeah.
Yeah. David had a chance to get Troy Aikman because he had left the Cowboys, retired. Wanstead had reached out. Aikman was going back and forth, but he said no because he had some head injuries as well, which then we didn't know half the stuff we know now. But there were some chances where almost, if one of those things would have happened, all those teams were so talented, especially on one side of the ball, the side of the ball you played. They were so talented with Hall of Fame players and some nice players on offense as well, like Ricky. If they had a quarterback, and nothing against the guys who played there, they're good. But if like a little bit better, who knows what the future might have been down there. Now, you mentioned Ricky.
I'd have been eating for free at a restaurant here or there.
Damn right. Look, Eli Manning's never played for a meal the day in his life.
Right.
David Tyree with that catch on his helmet has never paid for a meal in Manhattan a day in his life now since he made that catch. You win one. I don't care what town you're in. You're good for life. You mentioned Ricky, and I've had him on the podcast a few times. A fascinating guy to just talk about life with. And I know with him, you were there for the whole roller coaster. He's here. He's great. He's not here. What was Ricky like to play with? And what was it like in 2004 when he quits on the eve of training camp as someone who's like, wait, you're not going to be here? Like, what's going on? Like, what is he like? And what was it like when he quit in 04 on eve of training camp for someone who was on the team?
The league was adjusting. The league was going through a lot of rules and regulations during that year. A lot of that was really the main reason. Now that it's not, you have the programs and you have all the things. And
he was so far ahead of the curve, it's not even funny.
He was so far ahead of the curve. But let's go back. I met Ricky in college. We both were Playboy All-Americans in 1997, 98. So, I was number one safety in that year until I got hurt. So at the end of the day, meeting Ricky then, just his humbleness, his quietness, he could have came out the year before. The next year he stayed and broke all his record and won the Heisman. So that Ricky to meeting Ricky from New Orleans Ricky to the new Miami Dolphin Ricky. The Miami Dolphin Ricky was the Ricky that was at Texas.
Yeah.
His personality, who he was, running the locker room, leaving at the practice fast, good guy, quiet. One of my ultimate Ricky stories is the time he broke O.J. Simpson's record in the snow. He's in the back of the plane with ice covered in shorts coming from his head to his toe. So when Ricky quits, it is the same way how the Dolphins went through their whole situation when Tua got hurt.
Okay.
Exactly. You felt it, you saw it, you couldn't explain it. Things changed, the energy changed, the coaching style changed. Dave Wannstedt gets fired during the year. Coaches, it was I told you so. It was definitely I told you so. Like at that quarterback, then you're not thinking about you're saying, okay, we got that guy, you figure it out. But I think Ricky's situation, and maybe he knows the truth, and we all don't really know the truth. But I think his situation had to do with rules and regulations more so and contract.
It was. It was. Yeah. He told me on the show, he goes, it was a couple things. That was it, because he didn't like the fact he couldn't live his life the way he wanted to live it. And, some people, it's been said, it's been out there that he was run into the ground and he was used too much. He goes, that wasn't the case. It wasn't the amount of times they handed him the ball. It was the type of carries they gave him. You can run to the outside, you have a little space, fine. They're running him up the middle where you're going to get punished more. He goes, it's the type of carries, not the amount of carries. That's what he told me on this podcast. He goes, it was a lot of factors, obviously, not just one. That was one of them. He was like, he went to the coaches and goes, you can hand me the ball every play. I don't care. But there's different types of running plays, as you know.
Yeah, you're getting hit so many different. If I'm walking dead at you, you have to hit me now in my face, my side, this side, and my back. So Ricky's is dead on. That was the old school Dallas Cowboys offense.
Yep.
System, fullback lead, and and Ricky getting up there and making the decision and doing. You can't do that nowadays. You see they're so creative. They're pulling, they're doing ISO, zone, this, giving the running backs more time and more avenues not to get hit the first initial hit. So that's super important. Ricky was ahead of his time, guys.
He was.
Yeah. And back then it was a different game. It was bell cow back in those days, where now you have, like the Miami Dolphins have, 2-3 running back systems. And that was what the role was. And it was pretty much at the time, feed Ricky, just feed him and he'll figure it out. And you guys had a quarterback, and I kind of want to touch on this because you mentioned something that kind of struck me here. You had quarterback in Jay Fiedler, who, revisionist history, was probably one of the better quarterbacks that the Miami Dolphins have had in the past 20 years. So I can't knock the guy, but you mentioned he wasn't that guy. From a player standpoint, and for you guys specifically, on those teams where the defense was top 5, top 10 every year, for half a decade, when we need that guy, and you mentioned, we had a chance for Breeze, we had a chance for Roethlisberger. As a defensive player, now that you're retired, you can say this. Are you sitting there hoping for one guy over the other guy, knowing that, Fiedler's my guy, but I would really like to see Ben back here handing it off to Ricky?
Definitely so. It's one of those things. Like, Fiedler was a good quarterback. To win the Super Bowl, you have to be have that great still in the conversation to where they say, well, he was a great manager. He was a great talent, but they're still using the common word, what? Great. So, when Purdy wins one, they're going to still say he was a great manager. Dilfer wasn't good. He was a great manager.
Yep.
So at the end of the day, we needed Jay to be a great manager. So other than that, just that, you drive Roethlisberger, you put him behind Jay. Jay's he's a great backup.
Yep.
Whereas now you got this guy that's this Dan Marino Jr. That's what you got.
Yeah.
It changes the dynamic. Listen, football repeats itself. It's amazing how the same type of players go to the same organizations and the same things happen over years. You can go back 10, 15, 20 years and look back and say, man, Pittsburgh is doing the same thing now.
Yep.
But those defenses, they got the same type of players now. Like, it's the weirdest thing. Spirits must be travel or something, or the coaches, how they build it, but it's the same thing. So when you start to look at those things and realize that, okay, Detroit of old, Detroit used to be that good with Barry Sanders. Two good running backs now. They got a tough team. One good wide receiver, good defense. That's Detroit when the Barry Sanders used to be really, really good. That's just what it is.
So how good could your Dolphins teams of 2002, 2003, how good could they have been with a guy like Tua? Where I know it's a different system and I get that, but the skill set is there. And you would have had a guy who a lot of people think now has it. Some people don't, but some people think he has it. And I think if you were to take Jay Fiedler out and put a guy like Tua in that system with Ricky back there, with the defense that you guys had, is it more than just an AFC divisional round team?
I'm not going to put just that one guy. Tua does have the it factor, and it is, to me, definitely system. Because if you look at the Alabama system, it worked for him. You look at the Miami Dolphins with Mike McDaniels given, it works for him. And at the end of the day, let's call it what it is. It's a system for every great quarterback. That's just what
it is.
Yeah,
so,
Drew Brees was in the perfect system for New Orleans.
Right. So at the end of the day, that every quarterback that's done it, it has to fit them. So yes, if we would have had a system or system-minded that would have fit Jay and added some pieces with Jay, then Jay would have been a great manager of it. Now you take some tools and say Tua has the it factor. You give us a guy with the it factor, we win 2 Super Bowls. It's not New England, it's us. Because we all used to say in the locker room, it's one of us going to win it because we played too hard. We went to Denver and beat Denver in 2001, I think it was, when I
remember that game.
Reese,
Lindo Mare, long field goal at the end.
We beat Denver, but we lost the war.
Yep.
We won the game, but we lost the war. What I mean by that is the fact that we had guys beat up. Aronde Gasson beat up. Them boys, Al Wilson, them boys were out there hitting. So people don't understand that. Listen, the AFC back then was tough.
It was
tough. So we knew that when New England, they were going to play sound, but they were going to physically beat you. They were going to tackle well. They're going to gang power you. They were going to do all this, and we were going to do the same thing too. We were going to play one defensive scheme, and you had to beat us.
You had some Hall of Famers on that defense. You had 2 Hall of Famers.
Yeah.
Which people knew early in their careers, those guys are special. They're going to probably be going to Canton. And that side of the ball, and then you throw in guys like Pat and Sam and everyone else on that side of the ball, yourself included, who are very talented. And it's like that side of the ball, I don't want to say it felt wasted, but that side was good enough. It was good enough in that era.
Win a Super Bowl early, most of us do a minimum of 10 years there.
Yep.
Minimum 10 years there. You win a Super Bowl early, most of the guys still on the defense would have did 10 years. And then you like you said, you would be hearing about Sam and Pat being a ballot Hall of Famer. So absolutely.
There would be more Hall of Famers than Ring of Famers at this point. I think that's fair to ask. And okay, so that's a transition. Let's talk about how you guys in the AFC back then beat each other up. You weren't soft And I use that word because it's in the media lately because of a former player that goes on a podcast, not this one clearly, but he comes out and he says that the Miami Dolphins last year, the defense, and I think he's talking about the team as overall, but the mentality was soft. As a defensive player, and you guys played in a hard time. When you hear, for even the guys that are still on that team, which are probably a handful, but when you hear like Jaylen Ramsey, when you hear guys, they're still on the team, Zach Sealer, a former guy who played a position that you played, say that the team is soft. Is that sour grapes? Do you think? Is he telling probably the truth for more locker rooms than most? And then as a player, how does that make you feel when you hear somebody else say that about you?
So to answer the first one, is he telling the truth? He's telling the truth, but it ain't their fault.
Mm-hmm. Coach's fault?
Their fault. No, this the system fault because of what they know now is preventative. So you know what? So to protect the game from outside looking in, all of us are suffering with something. We're able to talk on these podcasts and get involved and do things because we're doing it for our life. We're not just doing it to, it's something fun to do. It's, it keeps you young. It keeps you active. You got to keep moving. But we all have some type of suffering of issues and things, So at the end of the day, yes, to use the word soft, yeah, you could say that, but it ain't their fault because it's all about what has happened to us as older guys and guys before me. It's prevention. It's, colleges, preventing guys from the little league. The kids at little league, some of them know how to tackle. So they go from being super fast and talented, they're bigger, stronger, faster. They can't tackle well, so they drop the hit. Things happen. So the fundamentals have, in a better sense of word, has kind of been replaced with video games.
Yeah.
The generation now are learning about video games. They're bigger, faster, stronger. Science has evolved. The way we train has evolved. But we used to fundamentally be more sound as an older generation than the younger guys. They're super talented. It's just not their fault. I won't put all the blame on them. So yes, that makes them soft compared to us. Are they soft in their own right? No, they're not soft. They're just compared to us. It's a different game.
Yeah.
You only way you learn how to tackle is doing what? But what? Tackling.
By tackling. Yeah. Yeah. So as a player, when you hear that,
nobody's running that Oklahoma drill no more. That thing's been outlawed.
I'll tell you what, as a high school player, I loved it. I got my ass beat, but I loved it. Because Turo, I'm 5'5" and about 198 pounds wet. I love the Oklahoma drill, but you're right, they don't do it anymore. And I think when there was that feeling of guys getting around that circle and seeing tough guy against tough guy, or even, little guy against tough guy, whatever it was, I think that builds you up a little bit more. But when you hear someone say that as a player, do you get pissed off?
Well, you can. You have a right to. You
Okay.
can. And you should, as you should. It's never personal. Athlete to athlete is never personal. They all know that at the end of the day that you can't teach heart. And not all of them. Now, you got some dogs. You got some guys that are tough as nails because they're just super. It's here. So you do have a lot of guys. And I would say 75% of those guys, they tough. And you got some guys on the Dolphins, they tough. You got some guys that are in this league that, man, grown men tough, so because they come from programs that are still doing it the right way. And you have to say the right way. Some people are like, no, it is the right way because you do have to teach a kid. It ain't his fault if he don't know how to tackle. It ain't his fault if he don't know how to shed a block. It ain't his fault he don't know how to use his hands the right way. So at the end of the day, you still have to continue to teach it at this level. And at the end of the day, that's another missing piece. So,
all right, Mike, you want to talk about some fun stuff? You want to talk about? You want to talk about what's coming up this week? Let's stop living in the past. Let's look forward about 3-4 days.
Question though, because you are a South Carolina legend who played in the secondary, and we have the Miami Dolphins now use a second-round pick on Cam Smith a few years back out of South Carolina. Plays in the secondary. He started off his career now a little bit slow with injuries and some other things. I'm sure you saw him a lot being a South Carolina guy. What are your thoughts on Cam Smith? What did you like about him when he was at South Carolina, and your thoughts on him now as a pro?
South Carolina has, just want to say, before me, after me, a lot of people gave me a lot of credit for a lot of different things. A lot of the guys coming out of South Carolina, from the John Abrahams to a lot of guys but we had a lot of guys that came way before me, from Sterling Sharp, Heisman Trophy winner, George Rogers, and guys that came before me. I just think at a crucial time, we had a run when we were losing of defensive backs. Then when they turned it around, you had guys going top 5, top 10, first round, second round every year, from Sox. So now it's a gold mine. Now is you're guaranteed to get a high draft pick from South Carolina every year in the secondary. So Cam, what stood out to me with Cam is the fact that the kid can run. He's a talent. I do think that he's still in his stage of development, and I think he still has to be coached. I think when he was at Carolina, I think he went through 2 coaches. So believe it or not, guys, that has a lot to do on young players that are just, I think he started the last 2 years, something like that. I'm not sure, but that has a lot to do with young players, their development. Their potential gets them drafted high. The development is what has to be developed. So if a kid like that doesn't get developed, then you're going to see the slow starts. You're going to see people saying, "Oh man, he's not that good. He should already come developed." You're absolutely right. If you're going to take him that high, they should come already a little bit more polished. But that's Cam's situation. I think that he's a great talent. I think the more that he's developed, the more that he's, because this really is rookie year. Last year, because he could not catch on to things. He could not, do the things they asked him to do. So obviously, you're dealing with what? A confidence booster, of who you are. Now, what happens when you lose confidence, you get hurt. So you've seen the nagging injuries, because he's a speed guy too. So you've seen the nagging injuries start to have, now you're in your head. So you start seeing the look around. But I like the fact that they are throwing him out there. I like the fact that they are pushing him to play, because he has to, especially when they lose in the beginning. You got to play. Let him play.
Got to play.
Let him play. Just let him play. So because he's from South Carolina, I'm going to stand by him. I'm going to stamp him. And, if he needs to get some off-season work, let's get it, Cam.
Yeah, and
I know a
South
camp
Carolina's
going on in
had a
January.
pretty good year. South Carolina's had a pretty solid year this year, and they got themselves a quarterback. That kid is going to be good.
Yes.
The SEC better watch out. I think in a year or two, South Carolina's going to be right in that mix.
Yeah, the parity is there. We're seeing the parity out of the top 3 teams in the NFL. You start to see everybody else is just like this. They're just like this. They built the same way. They run the same offense. They run the same defense. They built the same. They're playing each other the same way. The guys are responding the same way. College football has become, the NIL has turned everything to the fact that Alabama ain't Alabama.
Nope.
It
was Georgia
not anymore.
Georgia. So
they've come back. Everyone else is caught up.
You got Ohio State, those guys saying, "Yeah, y'all laughed at us, but we had our little easy schedule forever for the last 20 years. Thank God. Let's recruit all the top kids and play our little easy schedule." So all of that is a factor. But if you just keep winning, they can't deny you. Because
that's right. Yep.
So if you can steal you a national championship, just being quiet, keep your mouth closed, why not?
And now you just got to be in the top 12. It's not the top 4 anymore. It's not the BCS like it was back in the day. All you got to do is get in the dance.
All you got to do is get in the dance. Now, all of a sudden, because some people will be out the dance, they're saying, what best 9-3 team are you going to let in the dance?
Look, Indiana is going to be in the playoff. Georgia might not be. Alabama might not be. But Indiana, not basketball, we're talking football, they're probably going to be in. That's how the world is changing college sports.
That money changes everything. That COVID changes everything, because you got some 6-7 year older guys that are
Cam Rising doing his 8th year of eligibility.
I mean, you got the kid from Oklahoma State's almost 30.
Right? I'm like, okay, let's create another league. They have to create like a G League. They're gonna have to do something, because they feel like the amateurism and these guys are getting older. And I get it. You got grown men at 2021, but you got 26-year-olds still in college football. You got a rookie as 21, 22 years old in the National Football League.
Yeah.
So we got to create some type of, let those guys I'm a fan of, let those guys get drafted into the XFL league.
Yeah.
Let those guys, once they become, hey, you get over 25, 26, you're not eligible for amateur football in college football. You automatically, your draft rights go to the XFL.
Yep.
Simple.
Yeah, that makes sense. Robert,
Arturo Freeman joining us this week, former Miami Dolphins defensive back, now working with young football players. Excited to maybe send Cam Smith to your camp in January so we can work on some skills. And
well, Cam gonna be mad if you hear this.
Let's talk about this week coming up, because Cam's going to get some work in with Fuller not playing in the secondary. So before we let you go, we're going to dig deeper into the matchups quickly, because it's Oakland, or it's the Raiders, Vegas, whatever they are. So it'll be a quick matchup segment for all of our listeners out there. But we want to get with you and take it from a former player / now fans perspective. What's your take? What are you looking for this week? Do you have a prediction? Playing against a Raiders team that a little beat up, quarterback, who knows who their future quarterback is going to be. They're getting rid of the number 1 wide receiver. Is this a get right game for Miami? Unload your thoughts, Arturo.
Get right game was last week. Had to win was last week. Because you see when teams lose, they either do two things. They either gel or they splinter. So Miami Dolphins, I think they did this. They didn't do this all the way. So I think this game is a game where they continue to prove to themselves. I don't think they really have to prove to other people. I think it's more of a inner thing to create a new standard. I thought last week the defense finally said, "Hey, man, let's not make a standard of numbers. Man, they freaking can't score no touchdowns. Hey, that works for me.
It works. That'll work most weeks.
That's simple. That's simple for any young kid. Man, don't let them score. Okay. We used to have 17 and under. We keep a team under 17 points, we're going to beat their tail. No offense or nothing. So understanding that, the standard has to be the standard. I predict, I would say 24-10. I think we're still at that 24, 20, 25 points type of thing, because they haven't found the rhythm to go downfield just yet with Tyreek. So when they hit that, that's when they stay at 30 points. If not, they can get 23, 24 points, a couple of turnovers. I think the defense is going to continue to play. So I look for it to be around 24-10, 24-3, because no matter what, the Raiders are still the guys that they have there. The culture is still there. Antonio is going to still have those guys. He has second string guys that are still tough. So at the end of the day, they're still going to be tough. So 24-10. I think that we're at 23, 24 points right now. Looking for us to try to jump over the hump. If we get some vertical passing game going, we could be around that 34, 35, 32, 33, 34, of last year.
Well, wouldn't that be something if the Dolphins get another defensive touchdown shutout game? I mean, they promoted the damn stat on their Twitter accounts. It's 0 touchdowns last week. If they did it again, the elevator is going to be just 0. Just a big 0 times 2.
Big 0. But that's what it's about. Because, the question is, can they run a table? Can they
they have to.
11 and they lost 6 games now, right?
6, yeah.
Yep.
So can they go 11-6?
Probably only need to go 10-7 to
you probably get one loss in there,
yeah. It's a very slim margin of error they got. They're walking a tightrope.
It's tough.
Yeah.
But does the AFC allow a 9-7? I mean, a 9-8?
Yeah.
Does that happen to us? Because the NFC always doing that.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
You get someone from the NFC South with like a losing record, and they get a home playoff game. Like, why can't we be in the NFC South?
So I think that's the conversation in the locker room. I think that's what people are saying. I think that they're saying, "Hey guys, we know we can get in 9-8, so let's staple our opportunity and our chance." by running the table. You know,
Well, they got their quarterback back.
Hey, worst case scenario, man, we'll be 9-8. That's the worst case scenario, right? That's what everybody's saying.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Let's just go 11-6, man. You know, hopefully get a team here that should beat us. They don't want to play because they're already in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
Because
the Dolphins do have the second easiest schedule for the remainder of the season, so it could happen. I think Mike, we've talked about this one. The tougher games are going to be going to Green Bay. Fortunately, avoided having to go to Buffalo in the cold. They don't have to do that. They get the Jets a couple of times in there. You've got some
Houston,
chances.
At the Packers are going to be the tricky spots.
Yeah.
San Fran at home's tricky, but you're at home. It's at the Packers on a short week too, which stinks. Short week, on the road, that's always tricky. And then at Houston, at least it's indoors, but Houston is very talented. Those are the two spots. They have to split at worst. If they can split and then hold serve versus the Patriots at home, Raiders at home, Jets at home, they're going to have a chance at that final 3-4 weeks. But you got to get to the final 3-4 weeks.
Don't they have San Francisco at the end?
San Fran's at home, yes.
San Francisco at home.
Christmas,
the final home game.
But I think that'll be a game that if San Fran is in position, they don't really play. They don't play hard for that one. That's like
And look, guys, I've watched some San Francisco games. I've watched some, a little bit of red zone on them too. It's not the same 49ers team that has been the past couple of years. It's different. And with Ayuk out too, I think you have a chance.
They got a chance. Listen, they go just play football and have fun, and
they got the talent to beat anybody. They're so talented.
Absolutely, they do have the talent because now the way they played last week, they left us saying, okay, well, is it the line or is it this or okay, it ain't that. Okay, you guys can win without going vertical. Okay, all right, let's do it.
Yeah. Well, this was great. Thank you so much, Arturo, for a few moments of your time tonight. Everyone, check out his camp on January 11th, Elite Prep Sports. We will tweet out the link. We'll get out the stuff on our site and on all of our social media stuff. Thanks so much for a few moments of your time.
Thank you guys for having me.
All right, Arturo. Appreciate it, man. We'll talk soon.
We'll talk to you soon. Thank you. All right, that was a lot of fun. Arturo Freeman, former Miami Dolphins safety out of South Carolina. A lot of good stuff.
Could you imagine? Could you imagine if the early 2000s Dolphins had gotten Ben Roethlisberger, or had someone like Tua, like he was mentioning? We would have had a parade. I think with that defense, we would have had a parade.
Here's the thing with Tua, and I hate not to go down this road. In that era of football, he never would have survived because now you touch your quarterback, it's a penalty. Back then, you had to put a guy 6 feet under, and it still wasn't a flag. But I understand what you're saying. Someone of that
you get skill set
skill set with Chris Chambers, Randy McMichael, Ricky Williams, all that. Yes, absolutely, it would have been much better. But that's kind of why we've gone 20 plus years on a playoff win. It's great on defense, no offense. Great offense, no defense. It's always something. One side of the ball or the other. They have yet to really put everything together. We thought that might be this year. Then we started off 2-6. But all right, we're going to get to the rest of the show. But before we do, a quick word from our sponsor.
The DolphinsTalk.com podcast network is sponsored by Caneswear. Caneswear is the place to go for officially licensed apparel for the Miami Dolphins, Miami Heat, the Hurricanes, Florida Panthers, and all of the professional and college teams in South Florida. Looking for the latest jersey, a birthday gift, or the newest hat to hit the market of your favorite South Florida team? Check out Caneswear for their overwhelming selection of sports apparel. Located at 2655 South University Drive, Davie, Florida, Caneswear has it all. Not in South Florida? No worries. Visit Caneswear.com to shop their inventory from the comfort of your home, and they'll ship it to you. International fans, too. Caneswear.com is the spot that Miami fans shop. That's Caneswear.com. Caneswear.com.
All right, and one bit of housekeeping. We want to give a warm welcome to two new staff members here at our website, Anthony Acosta and TJ Lovenguth. They're both new writers, so welcome them to the DolphinsTalk.com family. Look for their written work up on the website. Two very smart and talented writers We're going to add a lot to our team. And also, we're going to have some news in the coming days and weeks. We're going to be adding 2 new brand ambassadors. Don't want to say who they are. You'll know when you see them. And we got a couple more surprises coming up as well in the coming days and weeks. So be on the lookout for that. All right, let's get to the news. Not much news, really.
Let's plow through this one.
You mentioned
Raiders.
Kendall Fuller is out this week, so no Kendall Fuller. Second concussion this year. We'll see if they put him on IR at some point or if they just ride this out. Robert Jones, the left guard, who had to leave the game on Monday, was limited in practice today, so that's something to keep an eye on.
Good to hear.
It's
good to hear.
Yeah, if he can't go, Lester Cotton will be in the spot. Okay, Dolphins, Raiders. This is going to be probably pretty quick because the Raiders team is just not very talented. So, quarterback, Gardner Minshew starting for the Raiders.
Yeah, I think you're picking Tua. And Tua, he played. He didn't have the greatest game. He took what was there. I think last week he tried a little too hard. I think you guys have probably harped on that throughout the week already. So
a little rough in the first half.
Yeah, it was rough to see in the first half. Glad they figured it out and got a little smoother. But one thing to what Arturo mentioned, when he was talking about his prediction that I think is actually good for this team is they haven't found that over the top, explosive play yet. And I think that's kind of good because they relied on it so much last year that Tua has to spread the. I mean, he had 8 different receivers, I think, last week. He's spreading the ball out more, and I think that's good to have more of that team focus while still being able to get a touchdown the week before to Jaylen Waddle, touchdown last week to Tyreek Hill. I want to see Waddle get his hands on, catching some passes better. But I think it's good for Tua to start spreading the ball out, and it just really extends the lead he has over Gardner Minshew by about 1.5 miles that's already there.
Running back. Last week we saw Raheem Mostert with his ass on the pine because you can't be fumbling away games. So it's HN and Jaylen Wright moving forward as your 1-2 punch. Raiders running backs aren't awful. Alexander Madison is a starter. He's having a pretty good year, actually, as well as Samir White and Amir Abdullah. What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, I mean, the Raiders running backs are all guys who have been backup running backs for a career. And I think that's probably their better role. None of them really account to being the number 1 running back, at least even to the level of Achane. And Wright running real hard as well behind him. So Miami has the running back lead. And we'll just skip forward. Miami has the wide receiver lead as well. If you go out there, Brock Bowers is one of the better tight ends in football, was one of the better tight ends in college football, is translated over, but Jacoby Myers doesn't scare you. DJ Turner doesn't scare you. Trey Tucker doesn't scare you. And I think that, as like we mentioned, with Miami throwing to more receivers and getting River Craycraft back and seeing Malik Washington play as well as he did last week, I think you feel better about the receiving core right now than you did 2 weeks ago, right, Mike?
Absolutely. And Tyreek Hill and this wrist injury, been a lot of talk around it. He said today he won't have surgery until after the season's over, so we'll see about that. I still think if they were to lose a couple in a row, he'll probably shut it down. But either way, I think it's just he likes attention, and I wouldn't worry about it too much. Offensive line, Austin Jackson out for the year. Left guard, a little bit in limbo. You might have Isaiah Wynn back. I doubt it, but you might. What are your thoughts there?
I think getting Isaiah Wynn back practicing is a bigger deal than most people think, especially the fact that you're losing Austin Jackson, which I think is huge. Miami's run game really worked well when he was out there pushing players around. Like Kendall Lamb, like we say every year, bless him for going out there in the middle of a game and getting his footing out there. And he didn't play really, really well. Neither did Lester Cotton, but they played well enough. I think that if you give either one of them a full week of starters reps, then you feel better about it because they've been in the system for a while. The Raiders, on the other hand, they have a couple of their better starters that are a little hobbled, and guys like Colton Miller, their center. Those are some of their better offensive linemen, but they're hobbled too. So I without knowing who's starting, if it's going to be Jones or Cotton, having your backup right tackle in there, which is Tua's blind side, I kind of go Miami by a slight hair on this one because of injuries. But I still think that they're able to get a much better push with the run game. So it's going to be Miami on the offensive line too.
Yep. Front 7, no Christian Wilkins for the Raiders. Miami, Zach Sealer was back, was awesome. Calais Campbell looks like he's 28, not
He's the
38
new
these
Christian
days.
Wilkins
Yeah.
for this year.
Long is gone.
Mhm.
Anthony Walker is now your new full-time starting middle linebacker.
Yep.
You got Max Crosby on the other side.
Yep, you
John
do have-
Jenkins ain't
Yep.
too shabby either.
Yep.
Adam Butler, nothing to
Couple
sneeze
of
at
Miami
there.
Dolphins players out there.
Yeah,
on the
so
defensive.
it's Raiders are going to push over. Miami though seems to be clicking on all cylinders now with their front seven.
Yeah, I think the way that they were able to really bunch up Williams last week, the running back for the Rams. The way that they were able to stop him less than 70 yards rushing, which I think is a big testament to both the scheme, but also the players. You mentioned Sealer and Campbell. They played their faces off. And I think for the Raiders, it would be a little bit closer if Christian Wilkins was playing. It sucks not being able to see him during their return, to play against the Dolphins. But I don't think that, any of the running backs are going to be too mad about that he's not out there stuffing the gaps or any of the offensive linemen. So Miami's defensive front seven, I think they have the lead right now, and they figured out what their linebacking core is now. It took 7 games, but they figured out what their linebacking core is. And then they picked up off of waivers the linebacker
Tyrell Dodson.
Yeah. More of a special teams guy, for people out there. He's going to be more of a special teams fill than David Long would have been. So I think Miami Dolphins, front seven has the lead on the defensive side.
Yep. Secondary, no Kendall Fuller for Miami, like we said. Raiders, not much going on there in their secondary, really. I don't know. I think Ramsey's the best player on the field by a mile. Holland's probably the second best player when you're comparing the secondaries.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. Miami secondary has the lead there, even with Fuller out. You're going to have Cam Smith and Storm Duck likely battling for some snaps out there. And I'm not mad. I'm a Storm Duck fan. I think that the guy has earned some playing time out there. So I think that having Holland back really made a difference last week against the Rams. And I think that, having that complement for Weave to be able to play Kohu and have Holland and have Ramsey out there, he's able to get a little bit more exotic. I don't think he even need Fuller this week. So if there's a week he has to sit out, it's probably okay to let him rest and get his head right this week. So Miami secondary, clearly the better secondary of the bunch.
Okay, if there's any area the Raiders could win, special teams.
The Raiders win. John Madden smiling down from heaven. The Raiders win special teams battle here because Miami special teams just got awful, and they're one of the worst statistically in the league. So the Raiders are top notch.
And we get to coaching here. Antonio Pierce last year was the darling of the NFL.
He was
when everyone thought he was the real deal. This year he's struggling mightily. Not all his fault. He has a poor team to say the least. Yeah. And then on the other side, Mike McDaniel. I'll say this: at times he still makes you scratch your head, but they play hard for him. They haven't quit on him at all, and that matters probably more. Look, when you're 2-6, chance for the playoffs, that stuff, whatever. Who cares? It ain't happening. Probably ain't happening. Whatever. But if a team quits on you, that's your head coach is trash. They haven't quit on him, and that matters to a lot, actually.
They haven't quit on him, and he's sticking with the run. And I think last week we even saw he stuck with it enough, even though it wasn't working.
At the start of the game, he wasn't running at all. Then he finally got into it a little bit later when they had the lead.
He realized doesn't matter. We have to run the ball. We can't throw the ball 62 times this week. So, he's picking it up as he's going along. I think that they have played not only hard, but they played well. I think the schemes were there. It's just, executing the plays. Again, Buffalo played well enough where they should have won. Arizona played well enough where they should have won. Last week played well enough, and they did win on the road. So I think Mike McDaniel he's picking up momentum when it's going to get to the time where we pick coaches over each other. And he's definitely, I think this week, he's going to win over Antonio Pierce.
Yeah,
Antonio Pierce. Nothing wrong with him. True story. When they won the Super Bowl on that David Tyree catch, I was in the locker room. I slapped him on the shoulder pads. He looked at me like, who the hell is this guy? Still like the guy. So I cheer for him. I root for him, but I don't think that he's in the position to to outsmart McDaniel or even have his team outskill McDaniels.
Yes, I agree. Prediction. I made my prediction last night. Miami 40, Vegas 10. I think for this is the week we're going to see the 2023 Miami Dolphins offense that we saw last year explode. Not saying we're going to see it every week, but I think for 1 week we might see it, and this is probably the week. What's your prediction?
I like that 27-10 prediction that Arturo was kind of leaning towards. I think that, Dolphins are probably good to give up a garbage touchdown at some point in this one. I think the defense will play well. And I think the offense, Tyreek's hand, I don't know. It keeps being a topic of discussion. I don't know how much it's bothering him.
He makes it a topic.
He does. I don't know if it's bothering him that much where he has to talk about it, but he's out there, he's playing. We expect him to be the Tyreek that he is. But like I said, I think the Dolphins are going to get 27, and it may be one of those games where we're running the ball well again, and it runs the clock out.
Well, you know why he's always talking about it. He's setting up.
Because there's a lawsuit coming.
There's a lawsuit coming.
We all know that one.
There's a lawsuit coming. He's setting that bad boy up. Okay, before we get to a Bold and Bull, I want to real quick talk about a new sponsor of the DolphinsTalk.com podcast. It is Mello Seltzer. That's right, Mello Seltzer. The seltzer that is taking America by storm. Mello THC Seltzer comes in. We got strawberry mango. We got wild berry. We got half and half lemonade and iced tea. And, of course, we have grapefruit right here. Mello Seltzer is a mix of madness, genius, and a pinch of chaos to bring you the best sips in the universe. With 5 milligrams of THC in this drink, Mello is revolutionizing the way you unwind. Each sip is designed to gently lift your spirits and ground your senses. Everyone go to melloseltzer.com for information on Mello Seltzer and where to purchase. Mello, stay mellow. And as they sent me some stickers, mellow out.
I like it.
Mello Seltzer. Okay.
So when the Dolphins are officially mathematically out of the playoff, we can start having some mellow and mellow out and look forward to the draft.
We're going to be mellowing out, yes. Yeah. Okay. Bold and Bull, you're 3-3 last week. 500 took you to 19.
It was a damn H-Chan 90-yarder, wasn't it?
I know that was a bad one.
That got me.
All right, and I've reflected these based on our opponent this week not being a stronger opponent.
Mm-hmm.
Number 1, Tua throws for over 270 yards.
I think that is bull. I don't think it's 270. It'll be a high number. It'll probably be 200s, and I think they really got to watch out for Max Crosby. But I think it's a run game week. I think we get back to the run game on this one. And hopefully that's where they're going to go and milk the clock out, get me 27 points and make it right again.
Chop Robinson, who's had a sack in the past 2 games, has at least half a sack. I'm not going to even say a full sack, but he continues the streak. He's at least in on a sack.
$50, boost it, bold. The kid's hot. He's chopping everybody down. And Minshew is one of those players that scrambles around enough where he might just run into Chop.
Run into a sack. I was thinking that. Yeah. Yep. Any Miami wide receiver, any one of them has over 100 yards receiving.
Are we counting tight ends?
Sure, I'll count tight ends.
All right, I'll take a Jonnu Smith 100-yard game. I'll say bold if we're going to throw in tight ends. Any wide receiver gets a 100-yarder.
The Miami Dolphins defense has more than 2 sacks. So 2 sacks you lose. Got to be more than 2.
More than 2 sacks on Gardner. I feel like I lose this one every time you give it to me. And I usually go bold, or I usually go bull. So this week I'm going to go bold. I think Calais or Zach, one of them get in there as well. And so we're gonna get 3 sacks this week, guys.
All right, this is a tricky one because we know this Dolphins offense, since he's come back to put up some points. Jake Bailey has less than 2 punts.
Less than 2. So if he has 2 punts, I win.
Yes.
Okay. So it's really 1.5. Jake Bailey, I go bold. I think the offense is gonna, they're gonna score some points. They're gonna get some field goals. They're gonna get some touchdowns. You remember last week though, the Dolphins had the ball for 3 minutes in the third quarter, so the whole quarter was a wash. 1 possession is really what they had, and so I think that's a good one. I'm gonna go bold.
Last one is interesting because now he's been more involved the past couple weeks. Odell Beckham Jr. has more than 2 receptions.
Bull. Bull. He's good for 1 or 2. That's what you're getting.
You're right. But I do think there's going to be like one game, and I don't know which game it's going to be, where he catches 4 for 40 or something. There's he's going to have a game like that.
It's going to be that Green Bay game. Watch.
It could be. All right.
And then we're going to think that he's the best 3rd wide receiver in the league again.
Yeah, for real. Locks and upsets. We were terrible last week. 1 and 3 combined. You had the 1. So for the year on our locks, you are 3 and 5. I'm 2-5-1. Upsets, you're 6 and 2. I am 5 and 3. So I haven't even looked this week. I got it open right now.
I mean, I'll give you my lock. Ooh, that's a lot of points, though. It's a lot of points, but I don't think that Trevor Lawrence is playing. So Detroit at home -14. That's one of the higher spreads that I've seen all season. And I think that Jacksonville's just got awful. And their defense kept them in the game last week. I watched it on Red Zone. The offense couldn't move the ball at all. And if you do that against Detroit, in Detroit, you're going to get maimed. And I think they are. I think Detroit -14. That's my lock.
Yeah. Not a bad pick. Give me.
Oh, you don't want that Minnesota -6?
No, I'm going because I think this team is ready to break out and look like the team we think they are. San Fran -6.5 at home against Seattle. 6.5 on DraftKings at least. I think San Francisco's got off to a rocky start. They just got back to running back, and I think they're going to start to look like the team we think they are. And I think it starts this week at home against a Seattle team that's not very good.
That's a smart
upsets. I got an upset right here off the bat.
Okay.
Give me Atlanta +2 against Denver. Look, God bless Knicks. Sean Payton's done a miracle job with that team. I just think Atlanta, and it's tough to trust Atlanta, but I just think they're the more talented team. And give me Kirk Cousins here getting points against a team that's very ordinary. So give me Atlanta +2 over the Broncos.
I got an unconventional one for you. Give me Mike Tyson over Jake Paul +210 right now. I got $50 on it. It's my real bet. In the NFL, though, my upset is going to be the Steelers +3 at home against a Ravens team that can't hold a lead in the 4th quarter. Both teams 7-2 Steelers, 7-3 the Ravens. Russell Wilson's finding ways to make things happen, and they're getting 3 points at home. Give me the Steelers.
Yeah, I mean, this week's matchups with these spreads, I would not bet a lot of games here in the pros. Probably the best bet is Miami. I know we don't touch them here in this part of the show. Them -7 at home is probably the best bet. I don't like Packers Bears. At Lions spreads very high. Ravens Pittsburgh, that's always a tough
I don't
game.
trust a lot of these teams. That's why.
That's a problem. Yeah. Rams against the Patriots, I'd love to take the Rams. But after what I saw Monday night,
you
Jets
don't know.
Colts, wouldn't touch Jets Colts. I mean, you take the Colts +4, but they're back to Richardson. I think the Browns on the road might be a sneaky play. They're a 1-point favorite on the road.
The Browns every week are a sneaky play. You take the Browns every week.
No, but the Saints stink. I mean, the Saints are terrible.
They do.
I mean, they're brutal. San Francisco's a good one. Chiefs Bills, I wouldn't touch.
No.
Cincinnati Chargers, I wouldn't touch. Houston Dallas, I wouldn't. That's
here's the thing: the Chiefs Bills game is so close. You get 3 points just for being a home team, right? And Buffalo's spread is -2.
And the Chiefs don't have a kicker now. He's out.
Right.
He's going to be put on IR. So I mean, don't bet the pros. Seriously, bet college. There's way more money to be made in college. Bet in these pro games. You got to be out of your mind because a week like this, I don't even know who to take. I mean, it's awful. But yeah, all right. So that's all for today's show. Once again, thank you to Arturo Freeman for joining us on the podcast. We'll put up all the stuff with his camp on our website and social media channels. Hey, I'm on Blue Sky too. So if you're on Blue Sky, because most of the world is moving over to Blue Sky, I figured why not open an account? You can follow me on Blue Sky or Twitter, whatever you want to use, at DolphinsTalk. Robert Burns, have you made the migration to Blue Sky, or are you
I
staying
have.
on one?
I have not. I did the Threads thing for about a week, and then I go right back to the Twitter because everybody
Probably
seems,
this will be too.
everybody's hot for a second, and they
Yeah.
slowly come back.
Yeah, but okay, so follow Robert Burns on Twitter at Robert Burns TV. Check out the website, DolphinsTalk.com. Again, more announcements coming. We got Anthony and TJ on board as writers, some smart, talented people, good people. And like I said, some brand ambassadors are going to be out there soon. We're going to be announcing some more hires as well as we beef up the staff here and add quality people, loyal people, talented people to our staff. So keep an eye out for that. Everyone, thank you for listening. Have a great Thursday night. Have a great Friday. We'll talk to you again after a while. And folks, don't forget, we must put an end to highway profanity.